안녕하세요, 물고기 친구들. How have you been, guys? Today we are going to go over the numbers actually. So before we are going into the actual grammars, I think it's really important to know the basic numbers. At least we need to know how to count 1 to 10, right? So in Korean we have two different number systems. So let's get into it. The numbers in Korean is 숫자. 숫자. So 숫자 is the word, and we have two different number systems, right? First one, I'm gonna call it the native number. So I'm gonna call it 한글 숫자. Okay? 한글 숫자, as in native, alphabet. So I'll just use it. 한글 숫자. And the other number systems is 한자 숫자, which is the Chinese numbers. Somebody probably heard it as casino numbers, I guess, right? So basically that means Chinese. Korean. 한글 숫자. So 1 to 10, let's count one by one. Have you guys practiced with my other videos? Yep, it's on the corner. So please do practice. So let's start. 하나, 둘, 셋, 넷, 다섯, 여섯, 일곱, 여덟, 아홉, 열. One more time. 하나, 둘, 셋, 넷, 다섯, 여섯, 일곱, 여덟, 아홉, 열. Very good. So these are 1 to 10 in 한글 숫자. How do we make it 11? So basically it's 10 plus 1. So 10, 열, 1. 하나. So 열하나, 열하나, 열둘, 열셋, 열넷, 열다섯, 열여섯, 열일곱, 열여덟, 열아홉, and 20. We do have a new word for it. So 20 is 스물. 스물. The rule is the same. So 스물하나, 스물둘, 스물셋, 스물넷, 스물다섯, 스물여섯, 스물일곱, 스물여덟, 스물아홉, and then 30, 서른. Let's just go through it one by one, right? So 열 was 10, 20, 스물, 30, 서른, 40, 마흔, 50, 쉰, 60, 예순, 70, 일흔, 80, 여든, 90, 아흔. And what about 100? We have two different number systems. So if it goes more higher numbers, then we generally just use the easier numbers, which is 한자 숫자, the Chinese one, right? So 한글 숫자 really not necessarily needed to have higher numbers anymore, I guess. That's probably the reason why the 100 disappeared over time. We used to have it before, which was 온, but nobody uses it, okay? So don't worry about this one at all. No one knows, all right? So don't worry. We just need to remember up to 99. 아흔, 아홉. Korean. The way we use Korean number systems, 한글 숫자, is when we count things. For counting, 한글 숫자. Keep that in mind. Counting numbers, 한글 숫자. Another thing is counters. Counters we're gonna haunt you for a while. There are so many different counters and it's really difficult to memorize everything, but I'm gonna make it a little bit simple. And in this lesson, I'm gonna give you the most common counters that you can use directly and those counters that you should not make any mistakes, you should not mix up with. So it's very important. Pay attention from now on, okay? Korean. Rule number 1. When you're using counter, we need to put a noun. We need to see what are we counting first, right? So noun first, and then we put the number, and we put a counter. So the way is a little bit different. So think about it in English. In English, we would say like a piece of paper, a piece of cake, a cup of coffee, right? Use of to switch it back. So it's not backward. Imagine like this. In Korean, we have to represent what we are counting first and the number and then the counter. So it's quite easy, right? You can see how it works, right? It just moved it forward. Okay? Korean. Well, normally counters applies to 한글 숫자 in general, right? So when you're using 한글 숫자 with a counter, a few of 한글 숫자 change. So how does it change? 하나. Imagine this. We wanted to make it a bit simple. Simple or short. So 하나, right? 하나, number one. 하나, it actually become 한 when you're using with another counter. 하나 turns into 한. 둘, number two. 둘 turns into 두. We kind of drop the bottom consonant. So 두. 셋 turns into 세. 넷 turns into 네. I thought it was actually about the way how strong the bottom consonant makes. But actually it's not, because from 5, we don't even change at all. So just only 1 to 4 changes. Okay? So 하나 turns to 한, 둘, 두, 셋, 세, 넷, 네. And then 다섯, 여섯, 일곱, 여덟, 아홉, 열, those are all same. And there's one exception, which is 스물 turns into 스무. 스무. Yeah, we dropped the L in the bottom, yeah? Korean. All right, then, in this case, let's actually put it together with the most simplest counter we have, which is years old. Years old is the same thing as in English. We put the number and then years old, right? So 1 year old is 하나 turns into, yes, 한 살. 한, we have to put a space in between, by the way. 한 살. 한 살. What about 2 years old? 두, not 둘 anymore. 두 살. 두 살. Okay. 세 살. 4살, 5살, 5살, 6살, 7살, 8살, 9살, 10살. And everything else is same. 11살, 12살, 13살, 14살, 15살, 16살, 17살, 18살, 19살. And what did I say earlier? Yes, the 20 turns into 스무, so 스무살, 스무살. Everything else is exactly the same, okay? So what you need to remember is the number changes with a counter. Korean. So let's try to say my age. Let's actually make a sentence with it, okay? So let's put, I am 16 years old. How do we say? So we need to put a subject first, yes. 저는, and then years old, 16 years old. 16살, and then there's a bottom consonant, don't forget that. Be verb, yeah. 저는 16살이에요. Okay, not bad. What about 25? I'm 25 years old. 저는 25살이에요. Oh, why didn't 스물 turns? Because 스물 is not the final number. So we don't switch at all, okay? So 25살. 25살이에요. What about I am 42 years old? 저는 42살이에요. 42살이에요. Very good. Korean. That's the way we put a years old. And same as in English, we can just drop years old in the end. So we say, oh, I'm 22. Oh, I'm 25. I'm 33. So same thing, we can just drop 살 as well. 저는 32이에요. We are not using the counter anymore, so we just need to say 32, right? Not two. 32, and then bottom consonant이에요. 저는 32이에요. So years old, we covered years old, the most simplest one, because we don't even need to identify what we are counting right now because it's years old. The counter itself is years old, so we don't really need to put age in front, right? By the way, age in Korean is 나이, 나이, Korean. Anyways, let's move on to other counters. The most general counter in Korean is for counting any type of object, okay? So object counter is 개. So let's say one apple. How do we say apple? We need to put the noun first, so we put 사과, one, 한 개. 사과 한 개. Don't forget, we have to put a space in between those words. Don't forget that. So let's move on. What about two bananas? 바나나 두 개. What about three pens? Yep. 펜 세 개. 펜 세 개. Okay. So basically, K is for when you're counting some object. It's not including the human or living things, right? So it has to be an object. And also, there are other counters I'm going to show you. You have to use that specific one if there is one, okay? If you don't remember, then yes, as long as it's not a living thing, you can actually put K. And probably some nice Korean, we're gonna fix it for you, right? We're gonna correct it for you. So yeah, feel free to use K. However, we have to remember all the others, all right? So the other one I want to go over is a counter for human, a person, right? People. When you're counting people, you need to use this one, which is 명. So one person is 사람 한 명. 사람 한 명. 사람 한 명. What about two men? Two men. How do we say two men? Man in Korean, 남자, and two, 두 명. Very good. 남자 두 명. What about three women? 여자 세 명. 여자 세 명. And what about four adults? 어른? Yes, 어른 is adult in Korean, so 어른 네 명. What about kid? Five kids. Five children. 아이 is the word, so 아이 다섯 명. 다섯 명. However, when the strong consonant merge with a soft consonant, S sound is actually a bit strong sound, and then 명, M, the M sound square, M, 명, m. This one is one of the softest sound, so it actually softens the other consonant. So it actually becomes 다섯 명. 다섯 명. It just automatically happens like that. We didn't go over the pronunciation rules for all these details. However, we just need to learn one by one, okay? So 다섯 명. Okay. What about a counter for animals? Animals, in Korean we call it 동물. So 동물 is animal. What is the counter for animals? So animal counter is 마리. 마리. 동물 한 마리. 동물 한 마리. 동물 한 마리. And what about a dog? A dog. One dog. Then 개 한 마리, right? 개 한 마리. What about two cats? 고양이 두 마리. and 3 birds. Do you know how to say bird in Korean? 새, 새. Don't forget, by the way, I do have vocabulary videos, 10 words each in those videos. So please check it out if you haven't watched it. The bird in Korean is 새. And how do we say 3 birds? 새, 세 마리. Ooh, sounds weird, right? 세 마리. 세 마리. Very good. What about 4 fish? Yep. 물고기 4마리. Very good. So these are the main counters, and then I'm gonna come back with the actual other counters that you guys really need to know. Okay, so we learned the basic of the counters in general, and then next video I'm gonna go over whole different counters as well. Okay, I'll not be able to go through every single thing. I don't think that every Korean knows every single of counters, unfortunately. However, we need to focus on the ones that we do use the most, okay? So next lesson, I'm gonna go over every single thing. So otherwise, the video will gonna go too long, right? So please check it out and see you later. Bye. 안녕히 계세요.